Now it's time for Culture Talk, where we talk about culturally relevant topics that you can use to start conversations about your faith. And I'm joined today with philosopher and theologian Kenneth Samples. Thank you, Ken, for joining us.
Hi, Sandra.
We're going to be talking about a very lighthearted topic, existentialism. Actually, you wrote a blog recently about existentialism. And I feel like that is such an important topic to kind of unpack. First, let's talk about what does that mean? What does that school of thought mean?
Yeah, right at the heart of that word is the word exist or existence. And so I would define existentialism as a philosophy that focuses on human existence, particularly for individuals. You know, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? And it would also recognize that truth isn't always just intellectual and cerebral. There are truths in art, there's truths in various other fields. And so existentialism focuses upon the importance of human existence.
So when we think about existentialists, who would be some key proponents of that school of thought?
Yeah, well, one of the most important would be the Christian philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. He's often called the father of the movement. An atheist philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, was a very important forerunner of the movement. All the way into the 20th century, that's where existentialism really explodes. So Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher, would be an atheist. There are many theists, both Christian and Jewish, who would see themselves as part of the movement.
So how would we differentiate between a Christian existentialist and an atheist existentialist?
Yeah, they share things important in common. I mean, they're searching. They raise the question: why do I struggle to find meaning in my life, or why do I experience angst? So those are similar things. But Christians would say, you know, you have the argument from desire. You're yearning and you're desiring something more in this world that you're not having. I think atheists raise those very same questions. You know, how do I find meaning? And so I think a very important definition is the atheist would say, when you're born into the world, you exist. And then you have to go searching for your essence. Christians, on the other hand, would say, when you're born into the world, you have an essence. You're made in the image of God. So that question of existence and essence is important.
So if, from a Christian perspective, these thinkers would say that we exist because we're made in God's image, then where would be kind of the struggle, or what would make that person a Christian existentialist as opposed to a Christian?
I think an important component in the Christian side is our fallenness. So we're made in the image of God, but that image has been tarnished. Original sin has kind of warped us where we are disordered. So, you know, we may look at good things like food, but we may eat too much of it. We look at good things like sex, but we misuse it. Money is a good thing, but maybe we want to acquire more than other people have. So from a Christian point of view, our angst comes out of that fallen nature. For the atheists, they would just simply say, you know, we're born into this world that has no ultimate meaning. We have to go out and create it and kind of create our own essence, our own importance and being.
So from the Christian perspective, if there's an emphasis on our fallen nature, is it sort of more of a perspective that is melancholy, like that sort of worldview? Yeah,
definitely. And if you think about a historical context, I mean, right after World War II, I mean, Europe is in rubble. The world is pessimistic. It's gone through 2 world wars. There's a lot of questions, like maybe we're not, you know, maybe we shouldn't put so much hope in science and technology. Maybe human beings aren't quite what we thought they were. So there's kind of a pessimism that runs through it. But I think what's cool about it, from my point of view, is that here you have atheists and Christians who are talking to each other because they're sharing a similar philosophical movement.
Yeah. I do like that, like finding common ground with people from different perspectives. I think what you brought up as far as the time period of like World War II and this pessimistic view kind of is in line with what we're experiencing. Many of us are experiencing now, that we're in this place of kind of deep reflection, some melancholy, some angst. So how would you engage a conversation with someone who is leaning toward an existential perspective to share some hope with them?
Yeah, I think that's a really important component. I think what I would share, Sandra, is that, where do we get our meaning? If God exists, and if we're made in His image, and if Jesus is the divine human person, He comes into the world to redeem us. If Christianity is true, there's just enormous hope, meaning, hope, and purpose. If there is no God, do we have the requisite ability to go out and create meaning in a meaningless world? I think the atheist has a real struggle with trying to find meaning if there's no God. So I think that discussion of where do you derive your meaning, where is your significance, and where do you anchor it?
Yeah, I think that's helpful for those who are focusing more on the fallen nature of humanity. What would you point to as far as the beauty of humanity?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful because Blaise Pascal, one of my favorite philosophers, who I think had kind of an existential temperament as well, he said human beings are an enigma of greatness and wretchedness. The greatness, the imago Dei. We are exceptional creatures, as Fazerana would say. And yet, human beings have a brokenness. They have a fallenness. None of us can stop sinning. None of us can break away totally from our narcissism. I think the Christian message really pegs the person in the mirror. Greatness and wretchedness.
Yeah, and I think that's helpful for people because when we think of what it means to be a Christian and we know that we're engaging with people who are demonstrating their fallen side, it can sometimes create a rift between a person who is curious about faith and God versus the people. Like sometimes people in their fallenness can get in between us and God, unfortunately.
I jokingly say, if you don't believe in original sin, read some of the anonymous comments on the web.
Oh my goodness.
And, but I still think that here you have a philosophy, an interesting philosophy that draws secular and religious people, not just Christians, but also Jews.
Right. Well, thank you for that. So if people want to learn more about this topic, where would you point them to?
Well, I have an article. My blog page is Reflections by Ken at wordpress.com. If you go on there and look at St. Augustine and the philosophy of existentialism.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Ken. So if you want to hear more from Ken, visit his blog. You can also find it on reasons.org and search for Reflections.